Devaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We'll be reading from Bhagavad-Gita as it is, chapter 18, text 65. Please repeat as I say. Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mame vaishyasi satyam te pratijane priyosi me. Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mame vaishyasi satyam te pratijane priyosi me. Anyone like to chant? Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mame vaishyasi satyam te pratijane priyosi me. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Translation. Always think of me and become my devotee. Worship me and offer your homage unto me. Thus you will come to me without fail. I promise you this because you are my very dear friend. Please repeat. Always think of me and become my devotee. Worship me and offer your homage unto me. Thus you will come to me without fail. I promise you this because you are my very dear friend. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada. The most confidential part of knowledge is that one should become a pure devotee of Krishna and always think of him and act for him. One should not become an official meditator. Life should be so molded that one will always have the chance to think of Krishna. One should always act in such a way that all his daily activities are in connection with Krishna. He should arrange his life in such a way that throughout the 24 hours he cannot but think of Krishna. And the Lord's promise is that anyone who is in such pure Krishna consciousness will certainly return to the abode of Krishna, where he will be engaged in the association of Krishna face to face. This most confidential part of knowledge is spoken to Arjuna because he is the dear friend of Krishna. Everyone who follows the path of Arjuna can become a dear friend to Krishna and obtain the same perfection as Arjuna. These words stress that one should concentrate his mind upon Krishna, the very form with two hands carrying a flute, the bluish boy with a beautiful face and peacock feathers in his hair. There are descriptions of Krishna found in the Brahma Samhita and other literatures. One should fix his mind on this original form of Godhead, Krishna. He should not even divert his attention to other forms of the Lord. The Lord has multi forms as Vishnu, Narayana, Rama, Varaha, etc. But a devotee should concentrate his mind on the form that was present before Arjuna. Concentration of the mind on the form of Krishna constitutes the most confidential part of knowledge, and this is disclosed to Arjuna because Arjuna is the most dear friend of Krishna's. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Gnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin iti namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine. Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Jai Srila Prabhupada. So Krishna speaks the most confidential instruction. In the previous verse, Krishna mentioned Sarva guhyatamam bhuyaha shrunume paramam vachaha ishtosi me drudhamiti tato vakshyami te hitam. Krishna told Arjuna, O Arjuna, I am going to tell you Sarva guhyatamam. Sarva guhyatamam means the most confidential secret. Shrunume paramam vachaha. These supreme instructions, please hear. Shrunu. Why are you telling this to me, Krishna? Arjuna may be thinking, oh, this is the most confidential. How am I so deserving to receive this? Krishna said, Ishtosi me drudhamiti, because you are my most dear devotee. Ishtosi, very dear, drudham. That is why tato vakshyami te hitam. So to reveal or to understand this most confidential knowledge of Bhagavad-Gita, one should become a pure devotee like Arjuna. And now Krishna reveals in this verse that we read, what is the most confidential knowledge? Now people, they consider Bhagavad-Gita to be the most important book. And different people, when I speak to many times, they say, this is my life goal. I want to read and unearth the wonderful information present in Bhagavad-Gita. And they have a very different kind of understanding. They want to use Bhagavad-Gita for achieving their life's ambitions, or they think that Bhagavad-Gita contains some complicated knowledge that they are unable to understand right now, but they should be able to understand in the future. Or it contains knowledge about Karma Yoga, Gnana Yoga, whatnot. But Krishna surprises all of them with this instruction, and he specifically states, what is this most confidential knowledge? O Arjuna, he says, very simple. Don't complicate all of that. The most confidential knowledge of Bhagavad-Gita is this. Manmana bhava mat bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mame vaishyasi satyam te pratijane priyosi me. So 4 things. So what is that? The first thing is manmana. In your mind, always think of me. Second thing, bhava mad bhakto, become my devotee. Third thing, madhyaji, worship me. And the last thing, mam namaskuru, offer your respects, offer your obeisances unto me. So if one does this, why is this called most confidential knowledge? Because if one does this, tato mam evaishyasi, they will attain Krishna's abode. By giving up this material body, by leaving this material world, we will attain that Krishna's abode. Pratijane priyosime. I promise you this, O Arjuna. Krishna says. So this indeed is a very simple instruction, but very difficult to follow. Because we have a lot of ambitions in life. We want to do so many things. We want to make so many plans for our own enjoyment. It's too simple for us to believe. Oh, this is the most confidential knowledge of Bhagavad-Gita. Prabhupada, our Acharya, he told once a story about this man. He was a poor man. He was making these clay pots, with mud. They make these pots. So he was making and selling them for some simple money. He was not making a lot of money. But he was dreaming that he would one day make it big and earn a lot of money. But he was only dreaming. He was not actually doing that. So one day he was in his, as usual style, dreaming. And he got his pots piled up, and he was dreaming that he was making these pots, lots and lots of pots, and selling and getting a lot of money. And he got that to build his house, and he got a beautiful wife, and he bought a lot of wealth. And suddenly his dream got shaken up, and then he woke up. And in that, he pushed his legs in an agitation, and then it went and touched all those pots that he had made for his living for the next 1 month. And all of these pots broke, and there goes his 1 month's worth money. So in the ambition that we have, whatever we have currently, we think it's not enough. We want something for the future. We're always making plans. This is what I have is not enough. What I'm doing is not good enough. I need to do something great. I need to earn something nice. There's a joke. If you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. It's true. Man proposes, God disposes. So what we think is something, and what actually is in store completely is something else. So the Vedic scriptures, it settles this idea. Ultimately, you have to come to this platform. Always think of Krishna. Very simple idea. There was another time, Srila Prabhupada, he had a visitor. He was asking, Swamiji, what is the best meditation? And how do I practice meditation? Because meditation is a very popular idea. Wherever you go, even in the West, yoga, meditation has become very popular. And so he was thinking, he had heard that Indian gentleman who was asking this question. He had heard about meditation, many people explaining different things about meditation. He had asked, Swamiji, what is meditation? How do I get started? And then Prabhupada, he said, what do you understand about meditation? And then he said, meditation means to give up everything in your mind, free your mind from everything and become thoughtless. That is meditation. And then Prabhupada, he said, one of my disciples, this girl, she had once written an article. At that time, Prabhupada, even now, there is a magazine called Back to Godhead that we publish in our movement. So there, one of Prabhupada's disciples had written an article saying what is the best meditation. There she had presented an idea. She said that people who say that meditation means clear your mind of everything, thoughtless. I want to be thoughtless. That very idea that I want to be thoughtless is itself a thought, isn't it? I want to be desireless is itself a desire. See the fallacy of that idea? If I told you today, think about you, okay, you and you. Can you think about a pink elephant don't think about a pink elephant with green dots. Don't think about a pink elephant with green dots. What did you think? Pink elephant. The first thing he thinks is about pink elephant. So it's like that. You cannot become freed of thoughts because that is a nature. Nahi kaschid kshanamapi jatu tisthati akarma krit. Krishna says in 3rd chapter of Bhagavad-Gita, the constitutional nature of the living entity is we cannot stay idle even for a moment. Something has to be running, either physically or mentally. Nahi kaschid kshanamapi jatu tisthati akarma krit. Karyate hi avashah karma. So he said, don't try to make your mind thoughtless. Nowhere in Bhagavad-Gita you will find Krishna is saying, keep your mind empty. Nowhere in Bhagavad-Gita you will find. But unfortunately, Many people, they say, oh, this is Bhagavad-Gita's instruction. Make your mind free of thoughts. Become desireless. Then what is the difference between a stone and us, a living entity? A stone also is desireless, is thoughtless. So that is not the purpose. Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explicitly is saying, always think of me. Fill your mind with me, with my thoughts. So this is the confidential secret. It's not to become thoughtless or desireless, but to always think of Krishna. The Vedic statements do contain information saying you become desireless, or you become silent, you become grave. That means the intent is, don't speak material nonsense. Instead of, if you are always addicted to speaking material nonsense, you better remain silent. That's the idea. But if you are always engaged in Krishna consciousness, that is as good as being silent. So that's what he told him. Meditation means always think of Krishna. And what is the best method of always thinking of Krishna? Yes, chanting the holy name of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We can come to the temple. We can look at the beautiful form of Krishna. Krishna's form is made according to the bona fide description as Krishna is present in Goloka Vrindavan, as Prabhupada is explaining here. Krishna is described how he is in Goloka Vrindavan. Barha Pidam Natabaravapu Karnayo Karnikaram. Barha Pidam means he is having this peacock feather on his head. Bibhradvasha Kanaka Kapisham Vaijayantim Chamalam. He is wearing this Kanaka Kapisham, this yellow garments, shining yellow garments. And he is wearing this garland, which is called, what is this garland called as? Vaijayantim Chamalam. And in his ears, he is wearing some flower. Karnayo Karnikaram. What is a flower? He is wearing a flower called Karnikara flower. So he is very nicely decorated naturally with all the things that is obtained from the forest. The forest flowers, forest flower garlands, the flute made of the bamboo, the peacock feather, Barha Pidam Natavarabapu. Randhran Venor Adhara Purayan. He is always playing this flute, and while this Gopa Vrindair, Vrindaranyam Swapada Ramanam Pravishad Gita Kirtihi. And Krishna is walking like this with his threefold bent form, and while he is walking, all these cowherd boyfriends of Krishna, they were singing his glories. So this is the picture depicted about Krishna. So when one hears about this, like you are hearing today, you have a picture of Krishna in mind. Now you see the deity of Krishna, exactly remembers Krishna exactly is like that in Goloka Vrindavan. Now you form an impression in your mind, and you carry that impression wherever you go. And when you chant Hare Krishna, you remember the name Krishna, you hear the name Krishna. Krishna is none different from his holy name. Nama Chintamani Krishna Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha Purna Shuddho Nitya Mukto Abhinnatvat Nama Namino. So very easy. Even a child can do. Even an old person can do. Young man can do. Anybody who is busy can do. Arjuna, he was in the middle of the battlefield. We are all sitting here patiently, nicely hearing the class and trying to understand, think about Krishna. I'm giving you the instruction, it's meaningful. But Krishna is giving this instruction to who? Arjuna. Just imagine the circumstance. Say, for example, now, say, there is some war going on, and there are bombs flying everywhere. And then you are in a agitating mood, ready to run away and hide in a blackout spot. And if I were to tell you that instruction, you'll think, what ridiculous is this happening? What are you saying? But Krishna is saying exactly the same thing. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu ma manusmara yudhyacha. Arjuna, yes, I understand you are fighting, you are in the middle of this world war. Ready. You may die any moment, but you fight always thinking of me. And Krishna is saying that to Arjuna at that instance, what to speak of other instances. At all times one should think of Krishna. So this is Bhagavad-Gita as it is. As Krishna is saying, we are understanding. Unfortunately, many commentators, they tweak this instruction. When Krishna says, man mana bhava mad bhakto, they say, oh, it is not Krishna that you should think. Oh, there is something within Krishna, some impersonal spirit soul that is superior to Krishna, some impersonal form. You should think of that impersonal. So this is not as it is. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, the pastime of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Krishna came as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu 500 years ago. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was teaching Krishna consciousness according to the instructions of the Acharyas. So one time there was Vallabhacharya who came to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he had written a commentary on Bhagavatam. And so he had presented it to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he said, so I want you to read this commentary that I wrote. And he also said, this even betters the commentary of Sridhar Swami. So Sridhar Swami is one of the great acharyas in the disciplic succession. And so this Vallabhacharya said, you should look at this. It is even better than Sridhar Swami. I have tried to adjust some things which were not properly done by Sridhar Swami. Then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu becomes upset. And he said, one who gives up or one who disrespects one's Swami, because in general, Swami is a word used by a woman to address her husband, Swami. So one who gives up or respect to the Swami is as good as a prostitute. So in other words, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu strongly rebuked Vallabhacharya, saying, don't ever say that you are surpassing the instruction of Sridhar Swami. You will never be successful in that way. So accepting Bhagavad-Gita means accepting as it is given by Krishna. Don't become smart and think, oh, this is too simple an instruction, let me cover it. Let me say something great. Oh, this doesn't appeal to me. It cannot be so simple. No, it is simple. This is disciplic succession. And because Prabhupada had given it simply as it is given by Krishna, that is how powerful and pure it became. And it influenced the hearts of many hundreds and thousands of people, even now. So the other important thing Prabhupada mentions here is how one should mold one's life always in thinking of Krishna. Mold one's life. The other word he uses is arrange. One should arrange one's life. Like how we all plan so many things, isn't it? We plan for our children's education. We plan for our careers. We plan for our finances, even up to the level of groceries. Everything we plan. But Prabhupada is saying this Krishna consciousness also you should plan. It should become the first priority in life. First you align with Krishna consciousness, then everything else can come after that. I'll tell you with a small story and leave you at that because we have performances today. How one should plan one's life about Krishna. So there was this professor who wanted to teach this. So one day he brought a glass jar, a big glass jar, empty jar. And then he got some things with him. And then he placed the jar. And then he took some big water pot and filled the jar with water. And then he picked out all other things. He had some pebbles and he had some rocks, big, big rocks, and he had some sand and all of that. And then he took out all of that and he was trying to put it into the jar. He asked the students, "Now, is the jar full?" And they said, "Yes, absolutely, it's full. Can you put anything else into this?" They said, "No, you cannot, because it will overflow. The jar is full." And then he said, "Okay, I'll empty the jar." He emptied the jar. The jar was empty again. And now this time, he put these big rocks into the jar, up to the brim. And the jar was full. And he asked them, "Is the jar full now?" They said, "Yes, jar is full." But then he said, "Okay, the jar is not quite full." He took some pebbles and he started to pour these pebbles into this jar. These pebbles, they went into these holes that formed between the rocks and then filled up to the brim. And then he asked, "Is the jar full?" They said, "Absolutely, it is full." He said, "Not quite." And then he took these small grains of sand and he started to pour into the jar. And these grains of sand, they trickled into these even smaller holes that were made because of these pebbles and stones. And then they trickled down and then filled the jar. "Is the jar full?" They said, "Yes, the jar is full." And he said, "No, not quite." And then he took the water and then he filled the jar again. And then the water seeped into even the remaining parts and then filled the jar. And then he said, "Now the jar is full." But if you did the other way, what would happen? First, if you pour only water, you won't have space to fill anything else. So the first things first, the rocks should be the first. If you don't fill the jar with the rocks, if you don't fill your life with Krishna's activities, you will fill your life with Maya activities. That is like pouring the water into the jar. Your life will be full of Maya. There is no scope for anything else. If you fill your jar with Krishna activities, Krishna consciousness, that is like pouring the rocks into the jar, you will still have time for everything else. You can still make time for everything else. That I don't have time for this is only a mithya. We have time for, Krishna can make time for everything. Time can expand, time can contract, time has that ability. Like if you're watching your favorite show or favorite movie or favorite game or something, you want the time to pass very slowly, but the time is passing very fast. But something happens, say your loved one dies or something. You want the time to pass very fast, but the time is passing very slow. Isn't it? So the time can expand, time can contract. So when you take Krishna as your preference, when you give Krishna as the priority in your life, Krishna makes time for everything. Everything will get its proper due. Krishna will see to it. Who better than Krishna to control your life and activities? You cannot think of doing it yourself. So this is the instruction. Always mold your life to always think of Krishna. Arrange and plan in such a way to always think of Krishna. So are we ready? Okay. So today we will have Sunday school performances by the kids. So different classes. So whatever they learned last semester or quarter, they'll be performing. So you'll have some nice engagement. Any questions before we halt for today? So any newcomers, where is Supriya Mataji? Is Supriya Mataji here? Okay. Can you please go to the gift shop area? So Mataji is going to that gift shop area. Any newcomers, we have a special gift for you. Please contact her and you'll also be registered and you'll be informed for exciting events and festivals. So please contact Mataji going to that gift shop. So all newcomers, please remember. Hare Krishna.
మధ్యలో నిల్చుంటావా?
First project చూపించేసి I will collect the project back. No, I don't need to. What was that sloka Mataji? So I will start remembering that.
There are 4 to learn.
Acha, the 4.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's okay. They will learn. She knows. I know that. Okay. Hare Krishna. So we'll just wait for few minutes. Yeah. 1 second. Placement. Yeah. Just. Yeah. You can get onto the stage. All of you go climb the stage. Climb the stage.
Okay, so we need to download this on the computer and play it.
మీకు గుర్తుంది లాస్ట్ టైం మనం చేసిన వీడియో ఉంటుంది